Hello, welcome to Chrysalis Invictus. Today I have a reading for you that is a sort of a shadow work reading. We're going to take a look at the subject of fear. So what is the fear? Why that fear is possibly there and what you can do about it. And then also what is on the other side of this specific fear. So what the fear might be blocking. We'll take a look at that. So I have pre-shuffled some cards. I have 3 different piles for you to choose from 3 different doors. So your first door here. Because this is a deeper reading, we really want to connect with our guides, our ancestors, any energies or entities that wish to be present with us today. So grounding your feet and taking some long, slow, deep breaths in through the nose and out through the nose. And welcoming in any messages that we are ready to receive that are for the highest and greatest good. So let you make your selection from these 3 piles, and I will meet you at your reading. Pile number 1, welcome. All right, first off, the energy here feels like chaos. It feels like maybe you have a lot of chaos in your life, or you are very chaos adjacent, and this is sort of like pictures flying off the wall, things coming out of your hands, things just seemingly moving without you doing anything. So at the slightest touch, it feels like things have fallen apart, and this has created an issue or a feeling in you that like a superstition almost, a fear and a superstition that there's something destructive about you. So that's what I'm getting first of all, but let's take a look more at the card that represents your fear. So we have the Meloramentum, and this is from the Cathar Tarot by John Matthews and Will Kingham. The Secret Wisdom of the Perfecti. Yeah, this is again, it's like something greater than yourself. Something that you put higher than yourself. Is this chaos? Is this... It's almost simultaneously being small, but also taking responsibility. It's like I'm nothing, but I'm also the reason that everything goes wrong. And so there's a fear of success, or a fear of climbing, a fear of getting close to people, a fear really of that your bad luck or that your chaos is going to rub off on other people. Or that the higher you climb, the higher the stakes in terms of what could be lost or what could be destroyed. So it's like kind of hiding out. You may end up like sort of hiding out in order to protect not only yourself but others. This card is the Justice card. So the feeling here is that, or I guess the underlying fear is imbalance and injustice. But with this energy present, it means that you have a better sense of balance and unfairness, or balance fairness and justice because of this fear. So because of your hypervigilance about this, or because of your focus on this, you actually have reflected on this subject a lot more than other people have. So you have a greater sense of maybe you naturally make ethical choices in a way that other people don't. So I see that this is definitely fearing the legal system, fearing things like paperwork, that if you try for something, that it'll get rejected, or that there will be, extra steps for you. I'm hearing things seem to happen a lot. From your perspective, things are a lot easier for other people. I do feel a lot of anxiety in this pile. Okay. So let's take a look at the root of this fear. We have the Knight of Swords. All right, for me, the Knight of Swords is really something that happens maybe when you were first becoming an adult, or if you are, depending on your age, but when you first started taking responsibility for things, there were a lot of situations where injustices happened, unfairness happened. There were hang-ups, there were things that you didn't understand, or mistakes that were made because it was new to you. And you ended up getting in some trouble in that way, or there were setbacks. You didn't cross your T's or dot your I's in some sort of way. And so this fear was developed out of a period of learning, but maybe you've held yourself to that. I feel that you've held yourself to that. Like you're still holding that sword up to yourself. You're still holding yourself accountable for a time when you didn't know what you knew. This could also be having some legal, maybe you broke the law, and maybe you have a record. But I think more than anything, this is you championed truths and were shot down. It was difficult. You had this you have this kind of sense of justice and fairness, and it has been shot down. It hasn't been rewarded. So this could be, maybe there was an unethical practice at your work, and you stood up to someone in authority, or you championed someone who you felt was being treated unfairly, and then you lost your job, for instance. And the thing about that is that this fear could also be from a history of being gaslit, or a history of being told that things are one way, and you understand, you have this sense of what is ethical, what is right, and authority demonstrating that it's a different way. So it creates this mistrust in authority, this mistrust in, or distrust in systems. Sorry for all the interruptions. There's a lot of traffic noise out, so I'm trying to pause it when it gets loud. Okay. And this is what we can do about it. So we have the Demirj. Interesting. From justice to judgment. Trust that everything works out as it should. So it's not about coming out of this space. It's not about no longer being a champion for justice, for these ideas. But there is your unyielding dedication to these ethical beliefs is needed. It's important. Because it may not look like it in the short term. It may look to you like you look around and you see, people being rewarded for their morally reprehensible choices, for instance. But that's actually not the case in the long term. This is an interesting this is the devil, not judgment. This is the devil. It's like, but the message is the same, sort of. It's kind of like if you continue to do this, you can see the devil where other people can't. You can find the root. I don't know why, but those truffle finding pigs, that's coming to mind. It's like you can sniff it out. You can find the rotten core of something. This also tells me that you are prone to self-medicating, or that you have been prone to self-medicating for this issue, because, it's made you feel crazy, or it's made you feel dismayed. I think what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to pull some clarifiers. Especially for this devil card. What can you tell me about this devil card, please? The devil. The 7 of Wisdom. Yeah. And the 9 of Wisdom. Okay. This really speaks to me about your relationship to truth. There's this idea that if I speak my truth, I'm going to get screwed over, I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to lose my relationships. Those who are dishonest get ahead, and here I am left behind. The 7 of Wisdom, I'm reminded of the 7 of Swords, where he's making off with 5 swords, but he's left 2 behind. Those who get ahead with dishonesty or being unethical, they are coming away with the full thing. So when you come into let's say abundance, for instance, or when you come into a situation, there is going to be a time where you will see that you have made off with the 7 swords and they have only made off with 5. There's always something missing. And do not underestimate that as you grow and as time goes on, trust is such a huge component to our value system as we get older. With the 9 of wisdom, there's this feeling of being up against a crowd. I'm really just seeing you having so much fear built up around facing off against the collective, essentially. That you don't believe what other people believe and feeling very alone in that, feeling very oppositional to that, and that your ideas are, maybe sometimes you doubt whether you should stand that ground. But you can see deceit, you can see deception where others can't. And I'm really getting the advice for you to stick it out with this value system, to keep championing truth. And I see that it has created taken such a toll on you. But that doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. So what's on the other side? And this is our card that represents what's on the other side of this fear. So for you, your fear is injustice. Your fear is people saying things are one way when you know that they're not, of you standing in truth and being oppositional to the collective, being squared off against the collective, and of being consumed by or run by or controlled by something that is false, that is inherently wrong. Wow. So if you stand your ground and you stay true to yourself and face this fear, you're squaring off with the devil. This is not a small thing. This is a lot of energy to stand against. And on the other side of that, we have a stranger's grace. Ego fears the sudden danger, but never underestimate the kindness of a loving stranger. And I think for what I've been getting here is that you are not alone, that there are more people out there that feel this way as well. And this is going to, it's almost like you inspire other people to stand their ground. The more that people see this, or if you end up having children, or if you have children, that this will inspire more people to stand with that truth and with that integrity. So it's important that you stick with it, that you don't surrender to the devil in the way that others do. And we have the card Aquamarine. So this could be a helpful crystal for you if you work with crystals. Definitely don't have to. I communicate with ease and grace. Yeah, so here it really feels like, okay. So one of the things you can do is to, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm struggling with words lately, so please bear with me. It's not integrate, not interrogate, although those things are both part of this. It's infiltrate. There we go. Infiltrate the system that is corrupt. So that could be like a career move for you. Maybe you have a natural inclination to be a lawyer and you work with the legal system you know, because you're so afraid of the legal system, you learn it. Whatever you're afraid of, you learn. Whatever power you feel is bigger than you, if you go and you educate yourself and you learn that system from the inside out, that will give you power over that system. That's how you look the devil in the eye and you say, you have no power over me, right? Because this is your demon, if you will, is that there are these powers greater than yourself that stand for untruth, that stand for inequality, incivility, you know, oppression, all of that kind of stuff. And for you, it's important that you come into knowledge of those things. There's so much Mercury energy here that knowledge is really your power. Learning is really your power. So the more you learn about something, the less it has power over you, because you understand it better. Your fears are always going to be conquered, especially when it comes to this, by learning about them, by taking away the question marks. And that will help you to sleep. So definitely study. And then with communication here, it feels like there is a component to it where when you start to educate people from that place of knowledge, so not just being like, oh, I read this Facebook article and this is how things are. This is legitimate knowledge. Then when you start facilitating conversations with other people. With these cards, I definitely see that there's a gift in standing on both sides and communicating with both sides. So that means having an open conversation with someone that you disagree with. And maybe you don't convince them, maybe you don't sway them, but at least that conversation was there. And also it helps you to understand this devil. So when you talk to people that you disagree with, when you talk to people who live for these injustices, or who live in the energy of justifying these injustices, you start to gain that knowledge and you start to understand how to defeat them in your own life and how to live beyond that fear. So let's see, let's get one more of these. Okay. And you have the ruby. Shine. It's time for me to shine. Yeah, and this is related to the fear here of speaking up, of being smaller than, and putting yourself in a position of smaller than. Like, what is my voice? Who am I to speak up about this? Like, feeling like you're lost in that. And again, there was definitely something that happened that made you feel that way, that kind of like you were championing something and maybe you were championing the wrong thing, and that's where that came from. There's a level of like shame in that, but it doesn't mean that you can't turn those things around. So I think I'm going to leave it there for you. I hope this was helpful. Please leave me a comment down below. Give this video a like, subscribe. It would really help me out. And if you would like to book a personal reading or join in with one of my yoga and meditation classes, all that information is in the link tree in the description box below. Take care. Pile number 2, welcome to your reading. So intuitive messages that I'm getting right off the bat is like, for someone in this pile, it could be even a nightmare of every door that you approach is closed. So every door that you're looking for to have open is going to be closed. That you may put the work into something and then that thing won't be there for you. So it's kind of like you're climbing a mountain to get this treasure, and then you discover once you get to the top of the mountain that the treasure is no longer there. You're reminded that there is also the journey and not just the end reward or destination, and that doors closed are opportunities to discover other possibilities. There's also this sort of overwhelming feeling of unworthiness here in this pile. But we'll take a look at the cards and see what's going on. So my first card here tells me your fear. The second is where that may come from, the source of that fear. So that's sort of the shadow work component of this reading. And then the last card here is what you can do about it. And we may pull some cards to clarify if needed. And then this last card here, this door, is what is on the other side of this fear. So what can you stand to gain or open up on the other side of this fear? So let's jump into it. And we're using the Kithar Tarot today. It's John Matthews Wilkingham, The Secret Wisdom of the Perfecti. Okay, so your fear. We have the Squire of Shields. This is interesting. There's a feeling of your voice being lost amongst the many. I'm here, like, I say that, I feel like I say this in a lot of readings, but too many cooks in the kitchen. Of things coming in, it's like scrambled eggs. Things coming in and it's mess. It's things being out of order. It's chaos to an extent. You're afraid to let the chips fall where they may. So there could be some control issues here, and a need to control and keep order. Because you're afraid of disorder. There's also a fear of time. I'm hearing time has not been kind. Like you're racing against a clock or something, but you feel stuck. Or that you won't have enough time to complete something. I feel like you don't like to be late. It's funny because this reading is meant to be fierce, and I feel like I just keep picking up on anxieties. Let's see. Yeah, it's like powerlessness and lack of control, I guess, at the base of it all. If I'm trying to separate out like fear from anxiety, it's a fear of being powerless. There's also a fear here of being wrong. I really don't think that that being, no one really likes to be wrong. I want to share this with you. I watched a TED talk about, it was a person who studies fear, or being wrong, sorry. And she said, it's not the being wrong, because we all live walking around with wrong ideas in our heads. It's when you discover it. It's that feeling, where do you feel it in your body? So maybe looking at your response to being wrong. How do you feel? Do you feel rejected or abandoned? That kind of thing. So definitely looking at that. But I think at the heart of it is that I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm doing. And then coming into the space of like hyper control to compensate. Let's see where that came from. Lady of Shields, from your mother. Sorry. It's just funny when the answers are so very clear. Where did that come from? From your mother. Fill in the blanks for yourself. So definitely from mother or mother figure. So either your mother or your mother figure embodies these sorts of qualities, so they're quite controlling themselves, or they seem to have it all together, and there's this sense or feeling that you have to also be that way. That is the standard that you must live up to. For some of you, I'm really getting that you almost put your mother into this like saintly role, like an ideal that you could never achieve. And so then there's this like overcompensating for that, or also surrendering into that feeling of unworthiness. I'm hearing benevolent she is what I'm hearing. So whatever that means to you, it's some kind of power. And this could be, your mother could be an extraordinary woman, but you're giving her this power of knowing above all others, or this power of being able to manage things beyond what you ever think you could do. And so your fear is that you will never live up to that. This is what I'm getting. Okay. And then what you can do about it. What can we do about this fear? 5 of Swords. This is very interesting. It's surrendering to defeat. Allowing yourself to be wrong, allowing yourself to be imperfect, allowing yourself. Notice that the things that you are afraid of are not as detrimental as you think. There's a tendency to, in this pile, to maybe close a door and keep it shut and not want to look at what's on the other side. So maybe avoidance. And this is about coming out of avoidance and actually recognizing that you have the tools. You have the knowledge. And it's right there. It's not some distant, far-off thing. It's not some high ideal that you have to chase super far. Take credit for what is yours as well. Start recognizing what you have to give, what you have given, what tools and skills you have. It's almost like you could be the master and you will still consider yourself an amateur. but not in a humble way. This is in an unworthiness kind of way. I almost want to get, I'm going to clarify the fear itself. I see you defending yourself from compliments. Yeah, so it's not only is there unworthiness or feelings of unworthiness here, there's the inability to accept praise or to accept that maybe you are exceptional because you've set this standard. So for instance, okay, so I have an example from my own life. My grandfather was a teacher, and he was also a principal, and he worked in the education system. And so my dad always looked at him as the ultimate teacher, and he was a great teacher. But my dad is also a great teacher, and he will put himself below his father because his father was such a great teacher. He couldn't possibly be that great teacher, but he is. And maybe it's in a different way. I wasn't taught by my grandfather, I was taught by my father, but he puts this ideal above himself, and then cannot accept compliments as though he were that. So it's almost like you are maybe in a different way, but you are as good as the standard that you set or the thing that you look up to, or you can be, you have the potential to be, but you won't accept compliments as though you are. Yeah, and there's this a tendency to hold yourself to mistakes that you've made, a tendency to really hold yourself hostage, honestly, in a way, to this like inferiority, or it's a self-image that holds you back, or that holds you down. And 3 of Swords. We have 3 and 5. You're growing. Allow yourself to grow. Allow yourself to not know what you don't know. And that does not mean that you don't know things or you don't have valuable things to offer. With the 3 and the 5 of Swords being what the actions that you can take. Surrender to the heartbreaks, surrender to the defeats, and then recognize, look, you have behind him, he has the tool. In his lap, he has the tool. There is always another way forward. Maybe you tried to pursue a certain kind of career because you wanted to be like someone else, or you thought you needed to be something else. You know, it's sort of like the, I went to medical school because that's what, you know, men in my family do, and medical school was not for you because that is not you. That doesn't make you a failure of a person. My hands are shaking a lot. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It just means that that wasn't for you, but there is something else that is absolutely for you. So what are the other options? Explore your other options. You know, if you're always looking at the doors that were closed in front of you, you're not looking for the doors that are still open, right? And then this is what is on the other side. And I think for you, what is on the other side is on this side as well. I don't know what that means, but let's take a look. It says intuition. Simple, complex words of pain or words that heal. You come to know truth by the way that it feels. And that's interesting because, you know, what you can do about it has a lot to do with swords. It has a lot to do with thinking. But this is saying that on the other side of things, there's an instinctive, intuitive ability to move through your fears. This is very much pile number 2, you are very much a pile where you are your greatest enemy. I feel you. And on the other side of this is a trusting and a knowing yourself, which is such a beautiful thing. Let's get some crystal wisdom cards for you. Some advice. We have Tiger's Eye, courage. I am courageous, and this energy supports me throughout my life. Yeah, there's definitely a need to embrace your strengths. Strengths are not just something you can observe in other people. There are things. Strength is something that you yourself possesses. And the Azurites, and it says, expanded awareness. My awareness is expanding with an abundance of clarity. And this goes back to what I was talking about, where you start to see more possibilities. So when you face this fear of being inadequate or not being enough, you start to see that there are more possibilities available to you, and more possibilities to be, more, or to embody more of that, what you admire so much. Okay, so those opportunities are out there for you. I wish you all the best. If you'd like to book a personal reading, my information is down below. Please like, subscribe, comments. That will help me to grow the channel. And that's all. Thank you. Take care. Pile number 3, I am hearing for you closed heart space. We have a closed heart space here. So let's dig into the cards and see what other messages there are. So this first card here is going to tell me your fear. The second card here is going to tell me where that might come from. So that's kind of the shadow work component of this reading. And the third card is what you can do about it. And then we have here what is on the other side of this fear. Okay, so let's take a look at your fear first of all. The 8 of Wisdom. Okay, so I'm hearing drenched in instability, insecurity. You're afraid of being alone. You're afraid of being alone. You're afraid of your clone. I don't know what's rhyming. You're afraid that there's no one else out there that's like you, or that you're very much alone, that you are weird, that there's something off or crazy about you, and that no one else is like this, or no one else can possibly accept this. There could be a lot of hiding yourself here, so not trying keeping your distance from people, because you're afraid that if they got to know you, they wouldn't like you, or they wouldn't understand you, or you would fully discover, you would tumble into the understanding that you are, that there is something wrong or crazy or off about you. And that there's something about maintaining like an illusion or the self that you show right now. there's something about your personality or a feature of yourself that you've adopted simply just to cover up these things that you think are unknowable about you or that you don't really want to share with someone. So what this can do, and I'm going ahead a little bit, but what this can end up doing and how this would manifest in a life is that, you'd struggle to have intimate relationships because you're afraid that if you let someone close, they're going to see, and then they're going to know, and then they're going to reject you. There could be fear of abandonment and rejection in along with this, but it is really just a fear of being yourself and being known because you're afraid that there is something fundamentally wrong with you. Okay? So let's take a look at where this may have come from, the Ace of Wisdom. Okay, so this is basically something you were born with. Something you were born with, or this could have to do with puberty. So it could be the way that you are attracted. This, for some of you, it's what you're attracted to, or the way that you're attracted to people, or who you are sexually. That is the thing that you carry around. So this could be a lot of shame that you're kind of carrying, and so you're hiding that. For others of you, it's these creative and magical ideas that you have. And what I'm actually hearing, and again, we're kind of jumping ahead, is that those crazy ideas or the things that you are afraid of, if you were to write them down or express them in some way creatively, like make a video game, paint, draw, comic, something, it is actually, that is the purpose of the thoughts that you're having. So there is a way that you are meant to convey these things, but not as a personal narrative or story, but as some sort of extension of yourself creatively. Very interesting. Very interesting what you can do about it. I feel like we're getting all of the answers in each of the cards. Yes, the Seven of Swords. So this is where you're you feel like you're making off with something, like you are deceitful, you have a mask. And so this is about recognizing that you do not have to hide yourself in order to be accepted. That you are not just getting away with your personality or this mask that you're showing to people, because there is turmoil that's created underneath the surface. And so it's about coming clean with your truth, with who you actually are and what you actually believe in and what you actually feel. So if this is a matter of, expressing something creatively, or finding a person who is a safe, person to confide in, trusting that there could be a safe person to confide in. That you have the ability to wear this without shame. Where did that shame come from? Where did that idea that there's something wrong with you come from? Maybe there was a time where you outwardly expressed it as a child, and someone, a great example of this would be like, let's say you were singing when you were a kid and you always loved singing and you wanted to express yourself through song, and someone said you're a terrible singer, and then you just stopped singing altogether. This is about finding your voice again. There's nothing wrong with you expressing yourself and living your truth. That you can be vulnerable and surrender to your truth, and you will be okay. Squire of Swords. Yeah. Honor that young person who had a dream. I'm hearing. Or that young person who had a dream of how life could be. So maybe, for instance, you imagined a world where dinosaurs and humans live side by side, and there's a story there. And like you see yourself in your head as the lead character. It's about writing that story, getting it out of your head, allowing it to live and breathe in a different way, making a film, making, a song, something where that self that you have felt is wrong or needs to be hidden comes out. And there may have also been a belief with this clone thing that, people who are doing that, you may have looked down on them or kind of been embarrassed for them that they were doing that. And it's about looking at them and saying, like, good for them for living their truth. So what's on the other side? I'm just getting climbing. So you can get so much higher and so much further on the other side of this sphere than you could ever get now. Your transcended experiences, your connective experiences, your best relationship, your best job, your whatever you are looking for is on the other side of the sphere. And we have Anthony's calling, or Anthony's call. In thanks of my spirit, safe and sound, all things that are lost, so can be found. Yes, and this is something that is lost in your childhood. This is something that from the very beginning of your life, you were meant to or destined to do or create or be. And somewhere along the line, you lost that to shame or embarrassment, and it's time to come through that fear or start to work through that fear to something else. And we have aquamarine, communication. I communicate with ease and grace. And this is about opening up and being vulnerable about these things or expressing these things freely and openly without shame. Citrine, it says abundance. I am aligned at all times with the abundant energy of the universe. This powerful energy flows through me into every aspect of my life. And that's the current that comes in on the other side of this situation. So your fear of being yourself is actually blocking your abundance. So maybe you went to school for accounting when you're meant to be, a puppeteer or something like that. And it's such a random example, but if that is your example, I'm interested. Please let me know in the comments. And so you think like, oh, that's not the practical way of living, but actually that practicality may have nothing to do with how you can become abundant. Your abundant life is on the other side of expressing this absolute truth and wisdom about yourself, the one that you have been too afraid to show others. So find that safe space, nurture that safe space, and start to let that part of yourself out. I'm going to leave you there. Thank you so much for joining for personal readings, yoga classes, meditation classes. All of that information is linked down below. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell to support the channel, and take care.